Hey there, and welcome to the UkeStuff channel, and welcome to this full UkeGuide review of this instrument. This is the Kala KA-15C Concert Ukulele. It is Kala's entry-level concert ukulele these days, and a friend of mine has bought a few of these to give away, as sort of she calls them angel ukuleles. So not only do I have this one, which I randomly picked for this review, and is the focus of this review, but then there were two others just like it. There's that one, and there is that one as well. And what I will do is, on a separate video, I'll record myself playing a couple of those intro songs like Mark Pugh's Snowden Symphony, For Elise by Beethoven, and maybe my little UkeStuff intro song. I'll record a few of those in all three so you can compare the sort of the sound across different models of the same instrument, which is kind of a unique thing. My friend asked me to check them all to make sure that they were in good shape so they could be given away. And that's going to be interesting because I did pick the flawed one to review, not intentionally, just that's where I started, and that's one that I started to review with. And thankfully the others don't show this problem, and we'll talk about it later as we get there. So if you want to support the channel, there are three things you can do. First of all, you can like the video. Second, you can subscribe to the channel. And third, you can always buy me a coffee to say thanks for making these videos at buymeacoffee.com/UkeStuff. All right, so what are we going to do in this video? First of all, we'll look at subjective categories that I look at with all instruments. Then we'll look at specifications, and then I will summarize the instrument and give it a UkeGuide rating out of 5 possible ukuleles. So let's begin. The cost. These are $85 without any package at all. So the instrument itself is just $85. That's what you're paying for. Now, in terms of value, you're getting less than your value here, I think. For $85, you can buy quite a bit of ukulele from a number of other brands. In particular, Aklot comes to mind of an instrument that I like. Flight comes to mind. Ohana, I think, would be very similarly priced. But, you know, Aklot and Flight alone, I think you would get more for your money at that $85 than what you're getting here with the Kala, although you do get the strap button on these now, on the newer models. So it's just a bare bones entry-level ukulele with actually lower quality construction on the inside, which we'll get to in a second, and build quality for a little bit higher price tag. So let's get into that. Let's get into build quality. The overall exterior looks pretty good. You do have a very distinct color shift in the neck and also a mid-neck joint. I've talked with some other people. I'll just use Daniel as an example at Fun Ukulele Projects that said that this really doesn't matter, but I've heard other ukulele companies talk about the fact that they try to put this joint above the nuts so that there's a full transmission of sound down the neck. Okay, Daniel said that's not such a big deal, so I actually believe him, but nonetheless, there are some companies that say that. But other than that, I mean, it's really attractive, and in fact, this one, look at the laminate on the side of this. Do you see the pattern there? I've got a silicone packets inside of that one. But so I mean, and they do differ a little bit, right, from one to another in terms of the grain pattern that you'll see. But it's attractive on the outside. So I think on the outside overall, it's pretty well built. There are two issues. One is that there was a buzz on the third string, which I've fixed by putting a shim underneath the saddle. It actually doesn't hurt too much, the action at the first fret. It does make the action at the 12th fret a little bit higher than I'd like, more towards 3 millimeters, but that's what I kind of had to do to get rid of the buzz. I mean, I tried double checking to make sure that the frets were level. They were. Double check to make sure that the nut wasn't cut too deep or that the string wasn't buzzing there. Tried a different string, a different Aquila string on it. Ultimately, the shim was the solution to solve that problem, and now as this ukulele is going to be given away, somebody else will be able to play it without that buzz. So that's a positive, but it's a negative on the build of the instrument. But let's take a look at the inside, which I think is really the negative point of this instrument. Considering what Kala used to offer, especially as it started in terms of its construction, maybe heavier built, but definitely more solidly built on the inside. So let's take a look at that. All right, so let's look inside the Kala KA-15C. As we look at the back, you can see it does have a tail block. You can see it does have vertical support. You can see the bridge support plate there, so that's nice. But look, there's no kerfing whatsoever in these. And I was actually shocked to find out that even the Kala KA-15C, those models don't have it either. You do have bracing along the back, which is nice, and you do have some bracing along the top. But the fact that there's no kerfing is just such a surprise. Now maybe the laminate is strong enough and they found that out over time, but it just appears cheap. Now, you will find, for example, Koloha does not use internal kerfing, but they also have the unibrace, which completely changes the construction of that instrument. And you can see where the tail pin is or for the strap button. All right, so I mean, and really low quality laminate compared to many of other Kala's builds. Just overall, you can just see the quality of the laminate is just lower here. So for that $85, you're not getting really a whole lot of interior construction. Now let's take a look at the upper butt. I'll move the camera around and see what we can get here. All right, so there is our neck block. There's not a ton of glue mess, but then again, you'd hope not, because all it is, so there's some glue mess on the edge of that horizontal brace, but it's just pieces of wood glued together. There's some mess on the side there. And let's see, scrolling around, see if I can get the angle here on the other side. Looking over here, more look over there. There's the horizontal brace again. Looking up, there's another horizontal brace on the top. And that's pretty much it. So really, an inexpensive interior build, really lower quality laminate. You can just see it. I mean, you can just see it. The outside isn't bad, but the inside just kind of shows that it just isn't the greatest build. Will it last? Probably, but still, comparative to other manufacturers, you're getting less than your money's worth. And that's our internal look at the KA-15C. The other thing I did want to mention before we leave the issue of build control is that there is one of these tuners that is a little grindy on this instrument. It's that one. It's the C string is a little grindy. It's not terrible, but it is a little grindy, and I have put some oil in there to help that out, and that has helped. So again, a little bit of household oil in a tuner. I saw Southern Ukulele Store was using a drop of lemon oil. Sometimes you can work that in there and help the ukulele out. Now in terms of appearance, it's a pretty plain ukulele. The rosette is an etched rosette with a little triangle and circular pattern. You have a Kala, transfer on the headstock underneath the finish. And other than that, it's just a very plain, standard mahogany ukulele. The other thing that I don't really like is the size of these tuner buttons. They're huge. They're way bigger than they need to be. So I wish Kala would have just used smaller tuner buttons like they do on some of their other instruments these days as well. In terms of availability, if you want one of these, there's 100 ways to get one. Anything from Amazon to probably your local music store might even have one of these hanging on the peg if they're a Kala dealer, and many places are. In terms of playability, the action was better. I've had to adjust the action a little bit, again, to get rid of a buzz. It's very typical Kala spacing. 35mm nut, narrow string spacing, thick C-shaped neck. And again, that narrow spacing and thick neck make it less playable than it could be. And that's something Kala can improve pretty much across the board of their import ukuleles. Now, in terms of sound quality, I did tune up again, by the way. The sound isn't bad. It's a very laminate tone. You might get more sparkle with like a fluorocarbon string. The sound is warm. The volume is fine. And there's some sustain. Even some overtones I'm hearing at the moment. But the biggest issue for me with this one was the buzz that was occurring that I have since fixed on the instrument. One of the things I do in these videos is I let you see what I'm hearing by playing the ukulele into Tonal Energy Tuner. So let's do that. I'm going to play the C chord into the iPad app Tonal Energy Tuner and let you see the results. So here's the C chord. It does have more sustain than the app is showing. I will say that. It only shows a couple seconds of sustain after you play the instrument. But reality, it has a little better sound than that. It is warmer. It is laminate. It is missing sparkle. Some of that could be helped with different strings. But again, there's nothing really special about that tone. It's not boxy. It's not caught. But there's also nothing special about the tone. All right, now that we've talked about the subjective categories, let's go over the specifications. It is a concert ukulele, and the scale length is 14.75 inches from nut to saddle, a little bit shorter than 15, which kind of surprised me. There are 18 frets with 14 to the body, and it does have side position markers at 5, 7, 10, and 12. It is a double bout ukulele, and the soundboard is made of laminate mahogany, as are the back and sides. The fretboard is rosewood, and it is not a radius fretboard. The bridge is a smaller, which is nice, rosewood bridge. That is a tie bar bridge. The nut and saddle are new bone, and they actually are labeled as such. I had them out, again, for adjusting, so it says new bone right on it. It is not a compensated saddle, and again, I have had to raise the saddle. The finish is a satin finish. Overall, it's 24 inches long exactly, and it weighs 1 pound, 8 ounces, so it's pretty light. It has open geared tuners. One was grinding, some oil helped that, so that's good. The action at the first fret remains at 0.5 millimeters. When I started and measuring it, it was 2.5 millimeters at the 12th. It's now 3, having to raise up the saddle. The nut width is 34.78 millimeters, so it's again a 35 millimeter nut, and the space between strings at the first fret is only 8.64 millimeters, which is pretty narrow spacing. 28.21 millimeters G to A. So as usual with Kalas, if you have big hands, I have men's size large, so I'm used to this quite a bit. I find this totally playable, but I know people, example, Barry Mann has got a ukulele that will talk about tight string spacing and being too small for his liking. This would not be for your liking either, with large hands or people that want a little more string spacing on the instrument. Now, the depth of the neck at the third fret is 20.90 millimeters. I measure from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck. Again, it's a very typical Kala, thick, C-shaped baseball bat style neck. And again, as I say on review after review after review of Kala instruments, I wish they would change that. They could. It would just take a phone call, a couple prototypes, change the factories, and get going with that forever, changing the shape of the neck a little bit. It wouldn't take much. Yeah, it's an initial investment to change it, but think of the better product and playing experience you'd have afterwards with a little bit thicker nut, a little bit wider spacing, and a little bit more narrow neck. All right, now that we've talked about the subjective categories and the specifications, let's summarize the instrument and then give it a UkeGuide review. The Kala KA-15C is Kala's entry-level concert ukulele. It's even lower priced than the KA-C. While the outside is a very standard, I'd say attractive, plain laminate ukulele, it has a nice little etched rosette, which I don't find offensive at all. I think it looks attractive. I don't like the really large tuner buttons. I do like the rosewood fretboard. I do like the rosewood bridge, and I do like the fact that it has a new bone nut and saddle, whereas some companies would do just a pure plastic saddle. That all said, this one had a buzz that I just couldn't locate or stop doing other things and had to raise the bridge to get rid of. And the interior is so cheaply made on these. And it's sad because Kala used to really give you a lot of value for your money compared to what existed when they first started making. So this is really a step backwards. As another aside, Daniel at Fun Ukulele Projects found on one Kala that he's working with that they were even using a laminate fretboard as well. We assume that the fretboard is solid wood, and it may not be. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, they also include a strap button as well, but for $85, that's all you get is this. And quite honestly, there are better values out there, both in terms of accessories and better built, and I would even say better sounding instruments. There's nothing offensive with the sound, it's just not, it's nothing special. So, that said, what rating would I give this instrument? I think, had it not had the buzz, I would have given it a 3 out of 5. So, if you buy one of these, make sure you tune it and you play up the neck and listen for a buzz all the way on every string. If you can do that and there's no buzzing, it's a 3 out of 5. You could buy it with, you know, some confidence and not feel bad about that. It's not a terrible ukulele. If you like the tighter string spacing, go for it. However, this one, having the buzz, it gets a 2.5 out of 5. And the buzz was fixable, but at the same time, it does make it a little less nice to play, but it's not terrible either. At 3 millimeters, it's acceptable. And you know what's interesting is I used to pick up Kalas all the time that had even higher action than that. It seems like they've addressed that, which is good. So in another video, I will compare all 3 of these Kala KA-15Cs and let you hear just kind of what it sounds like across the same product, and just, you know, same string setup and everything, with the exception of maybe some slight differences in action just by a touch. But they all, you know, share very similar bodies, quality of laminate, construction, and everything else. So that really summarizes our look at the Kala KA-15C. Thanks so much for joining me for the video. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll be back soon with some more Uke stuff for you.